Hello everyone. We are going to do a review today of subtracting integers, so you will need to get yourself a sheet of notebook paper and a pencil. Just like we did with adding integers, we're going to focus today on subtracting integers. So we'll practice with 10 questions. You'll see that I've got all different sorts of questions on your page here, and I've enlarged your page so you can't see everything at a time, but that's okay because we're going to work through these step by step together. I may have you stop the video at some point and try one on your own. And then we'll see how we're doing and decide if you are ready to continue with subtracting integers or if you need some more practice together. So let's begin in question 1. Remember that the key idea from subtracting integers is to actually change the problems to addition and then use the rules for addition. So let's remember what it was that we need to do in order to change a subtraction problem into an addition problem. So we use a couple of words to help us remember. Add the opposite. Uh-oh, my pen quit working. There we go. So add the opposite is one thing that you might hear someone say, or you might hear someone say these 3 words: keep, change, change. And what this means is that we keep the first number the same, we change the sign from subtracting to adding, and then we change the second number to its opposite. So it goes along with the add the opposite, those 3 words, that phrase, but it just gives you another thing that perhaps would make it easier for you to remember. So now let's take a look at the first question, 4 minus 2. Now come on, this is a second grade question, maybe. It might even be first grade. And this question is basically just saying, what is positive 4 minus positive 2? Well, you can do this because the smaller number is being taken away from the bigger number, and there's enough there to take away. So you already know in your head that the answer to this question is just simply 2. But let's look at this from the integer perspective. If we were going to apply the rules for subtracting integers, what would question 1 look like? Well, we would add the opposite. So we're going to keep the first number. We're going to change the subtraction sign to addition. And then we're going to change the second number, the 2, into its opposite, which is negative 2. And 4 plus a negative 2 is 2. Okay, so you can see how the problems look very similar to each other, but we always change that addition sign or the subtraction sign to an addition sign, and then we always change the second number after that into its opposite. Now let's take a look at number 2, because number 2 has 2 negative numbers, and we're trying to take away a negative 3 from a negative 7. So we're going to add the opposite. Keep the first number, change the subtraction to addition, and change the second number into its opposite. And the opposite of a negative 3 is a positive 3. Now I see negative 7 plus 3, and I have addition rules to follow. And the addition rules tell me, okay, when you have a negative number and a positive number and you're adding them together, you actually subtract, and then your answer has the same sign as the number with the greater absolute value. And since there was more of the negative 7 than there is of the positive 3, then our answer will take that same sign, which is a negative 4. It's a little confusing to get started, but I promise that once you practice, you'll get the hang of it. Now let's try question number 3. 4 minus negative 8. So we are going to keep the first number. We're going to change the subtraction sign into an addition sign. And we're going to change the negative 8 into its opposite, which is positive 8. Now take a look at this question. I only have positive numbers left. So now this becomes first grade math. 4 plus 8 is 12. In question number 4, you'll notice that we don't have any negative numbers right now. We only have positive numbers, 5 minus 9. Well, if you were doing this back in first or second grade, your teacher would have told you that the numbers were out of order, that the big number comes first. But what they didn't tell you was that there's a whole set of numbers that are called the opposites. And this is one of those cases where it's okay to have a bigger number being taken away from a smaller number. So by writing the subtraction problem as an addition problem and using the opposite of the second integer, we can see what this problem actually looks like using addition. So in this question, I would keep the first number. I'm going to change the subtraction sign to addition, and I'm going to change the number that follows into its opposite. Now, just like I did on question 2, I'm going to follow the rules for addition. Because I have two numbers with opposite signs, I actually subtract them. And then I see that my number here, 4, my answer 4, has to take the same sign as the integer with a greater absolute value, which means there is more of the negative number, -9, than there is of the positive number, which was 5. So my answer is a -4. Now let's take a look at question 5. -7 minus -6 is going to be a question that we change into addition using the strategy above. Add the opposite. So we are going to keep the first number. We are going to add, change the sign to addition, and change the second number into its opposite. And the opposite of a -6 is a +6. Now again, we can use our rules for addition in order to solve the problem. Since I have one negative number and one positive number, I find the difference between them. And then I look to see which of those two integers was there more of. In this case, there was more of the negative number because there's more of the -7 than there is of the +6. So my answer must have a negative sign in front of it as well. Number 6, -3 minus -3. One thing that I would like for you to recognize in number 6 is that the two integers that you are subtracting are the same. -3 take away -3. But what happens when you have a number and you take away the same number? What do you usually get? For instance, if these were positive 3's, you would have a +3 plus or minus a +3, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So let's see what happens when the numbers are negative and they're being subtracted. Go ahead and change this into that adding the opposite scenario. So keep the first number, change to addition, change to its opposite. Now you have an addition sentence that shows the two numbers are opposites, -3 and +3. And when you put negative and positive of the same digit or absolute value together, you get 0. So it does work when you take away negative numbers, okay, that are equivalent, just like it does if you take away positive numbers that are equivalent. For number 7, I'd like for you to try on your own to change this from subtraction into addition. Pause the video for a moment while you do that, and then come back and we'll check to see if your addition sentence is the same as mine. Then we'll solve it. When you rewrote your subtraction problem as addition, did you get 5 plus 1? If so, then you were correct. Now you have two positive numbers that you're adding together, so this again becomes your first grade math. 5 plus 1 is 6. Both numbers are positive, so we don't have to do anything fancy to try to get the answer. Let's use the same strategy for question 8. Pause the video while you're changing 4 minus 6 into its equivalent addition problem. Then come back to check your addition sentence to see if it is correct. Then we'll solve it. Your answer to the subtraction question, changing it to addition, is 4 plus negative 6. So we know that those two sentences are equivalent. Now we're going to use the rules for adding integers in order to add 4 plus negative 6. Whenever we have a positive and a negative number to add, we actually find the difference between them. And then remember, we have to check to see, is the negative number the bigger absolute value or the positive number? In this case, there's more of the negative 6 than there is the positive 4, so our answer is a negative 2. And finally, we have 2 questions left. I'd like for you to try these 2 completely on your own, and then come back and check your work for your addition sentences and your answers. Did you notice on number 9 that we have a negative 2 take away 0? Any number take away 0 is the number itself. So negative 2 take away 0 is simply negative 2. Nothing fancy there. In number 10, your addition sentence would read 1 plus negative 3. In order to solve this question, remember that you have 2 integers. One is positive, one is negative. So find the difference between them. And then look to see if your answer is positive or negative. For this problem, your answer would be negative. If you have any questions about the work on this page, please see me or email me, talk to me about those questions before you move on to any of your other assigned work.